most powerful monster that never was, the strongest creature that never came to be, the third thing that means the same as the first two things. Welcome, my fellow hunters. For today, I want to talk just a little bit about the Equal Dragon Weapon. Yes, this monstrosity of flesh and steel is one of the most fascinating bits of Monster Hunter lore, and it's something that is really quite a shame that it's been sort of dropped and left by the wayside, though perhaps one day it will raise its head once more and lay waste to, well, perhaps both hunter and monster alike, as I doubt it's in the best state after thousands of years of neglect, alone, rusting and rotting in a warehouse deep within the ruins of the ancient civilization. You see, the ancient dragons is not what I wanted to say. So, you see, the Equal Dragon Weapon... So the Equal Dragon Weapon, then, was the ultimate solution to the Dragon War that the ancient civilization had. The ancient civilization lived thousands of years ago. It's where we get things like charge blades, like switch axes, like bow guns, mechanical marvels that are, well, technically above the know-how and skill of our current, well, Monster Hunter Day blacksmiths.
That's me!
The only reason we have those weapons, things like the gun lance, is because we found blueprints, we found ancient versions of them, dug them up, and, well, kinda our best job at backwards engineering them. But that's the reason we don't have constant new weapons of all kinds of explosive combinations appear, because, well, we need to find them first. The ancient civilization was very much mighty, and it needed to be because it fought a war with, I don't know, essentially every single Elder Dragon! It has a tower that is made out of Kushaladora bodies. Thousands of them killed so casually and used as goddamn cement. That is the kind of clout they were bringing, and yet they still, well, drew in mutually assured destruction. So, during that ancient war then, between the Elder Dragons and the ancient civilization, the war that Fatalis himself went, you know what, this has gone on too far, y'all need to stop. So I am here to... But in his case, ending the war meant, well, almost wiping out every single living thing for miles and miles around and turning entire kingdoms into ash such that nothing would ever grow again, well, for thousands of years. But, you know, everyone has their methods. But just before this point, just before everything went silent, they had just finished making the Equal Dragon Weapon. And this thing is monstrous in every sense of the word. They figured that in order to end this fighting, in order to crush the dragons all at once, well, they would take thousands upon thousands of them. They would use all of their parts, combine it with their technology in a fusion of bone and iron, and industry and bioenergy to create an abomination, a titan of utter devastation. It would be constructed with everything that was powerful in the ancient land of Monster Hunter. And in order to create it, they did indeed slay that many dragons. They genocided whole species of them in order for this to take form. But it never got activated. It never got a chance to. I mean, look at it. It is just an amalgamation of horror, dripping with just unsettling dread. We know what, well, an abundance of bioenergy can do. We've seen Xeno'jiiva's explosive fury, and that was nowhere near what was poured into this thing. If this had been turned on, or woken up, or however it had been programmed to do so, well, there's no telling the devastation it would have caused. And the thing is, this has been found. The Equal Dragon Weapon was discovered in some ruins in an ancient storage facility It is possibly the only remaining weapon of war from the age of the Great Dragon War. The man-made dragon was pieced together using parts harvested from over 30 mature dragons. However artificial, the equal dragon weapon boasts a might comparable to any living dragon. Its physical strength, endurance, and firepower are said to have posed the most relevant threat to the dragons during the ancient war. The technology behind crafting an equal dragon weapon reached its pinnacle during the Great Dragon Wars. But that technology, along with the great dragon hunters of the day, the ancestors of the modern-day hunters, were not destined to last. The humans engaged the dragons in a war of epic scale, with both sides fighting valiantly and viciously until they were simultaneously brought to the brink of extinction. And that is quite the tale attached. And yes, there it says only 30 dragons, but there are other sources saying that was 30 horses pulling, well, parts of dragons, carts full of them, which would total in the hundreds at least. But whichever way around it is, one thing is certain, it is something to be feared. And the technology to make this was not a one-time thing. They were planning on making many of them, unleashing many of them, using them as, well, the weapon. So there is every chance that if they ever want to bring this back, well, we could be fighting many of them. It could just be a monster in the bestiary for us to tackle, just another, air quotes, species. But, like, they'd never put in a giant mech, would they? So perhaps it's not too far-fetched at all. Though, that said, there has been very little reference to it since way back in Monster Hunter 1, when we got this little snippet. But this, well, forbidden act, going against nature itself, to take lives in order to make one that is synthetic, create one from nothing, well, that's not something that might be gone forever. In fact, it's quite the strong story to draw from in any given future Monster Hunter game, actually having to deal with it once and for all, something that isn't so much natural as it is terrifying. This thing would have been capable of standing up to Fatalis, but whether luckily or not, it never ever got to see the light of day. So I do pose the question then, if this Titan of Flesh, I mean, just look at it, it is absolutely horrific. It rivals that of Gogmazios for flying size, but it's sheared with metal spikes. You can see the different parts of flesh coming together, the plating that it has going on. It wouldn't feel pain, it wouldn't tire, it wouldn't slow. It would be inexhaustible in its single-minded purpose of wiping out every single dragon. But could you have even controlled it? Could they have controlled it? Could they have stopped it once it was done? Could it be prevented before it extincted every living thing not human? And then after that, would it have turned on them? Or would it have gone dormant and just waited for more to appear? Something like this is, well, unpredictable, uncontrollable. How do you know what will happen when you bring something to life that is inherently born of war and agony and torment and torture and pain? This thing, this mindless, destructive beast, if you could even call it a beast, there's no telling the repercussions of letting it loose. Which is why it would be a hell of a lot of fun if this bioweapon was unleashed later down the line. The guild's been studying it for a long time. So, well, there's a possibility of a whoopsie and one hell of a final boss, and it would be ridiculous. It would be something very different, something very new, and something they could really play around with. And now we're in the World Iceborne era, we finally have everything built up in a way that could support it, that could do it justice, because I really don't think the old games could. Ahtal Nesto, of course, was phenomenal, but you need something really special to make this work. So I'd love to know your opinion on this, guys, what you think of the Equal Dragon weapon. There's not much to say about it, not much is known. It's just made of the pinnacle of ancient civilization technology and more elder dragons, which back then were even more ferocious and powerful, more apocalyptic than they are now, in this fusion. And in theory, this, if it ever were to be, would stand atop as the most destructive force. Because as an unthinking, unfeeling, essentially living weapon, it certainly would be immune to Fatalis' aura of dread, and then Fatalis is gonna struggle to take that thing down. It really, really is. There's no doubt in my mind that this thing could very well be the strongest entity in all Monster Hunter. Fortunately then, it's dormant. Like if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and I will see you soon. A goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.